In Germany, vines have been cultivated since before the Common Era, and its vineyards are among the world's coolest, reaching above the 50th parallel, about as far north as grapes can grow.
So wine growing in Germany is a very special part of our agricultural industry, and it's 2/3 white wine growing and 1/3 red wine growing.
Germany is home to over a third of the world's Riesling. Beloved for its versatility, elegance, and aging potential, it's the country's undisputed great grape.
The Riesling grape for us is the most important grape variety. Riesling has so many phases, so many different variation that you can do almost everything with it.
You can have the Riesling very early after bottling and can go with, you can age yourself with the wine up to 30, 40, 50, 60 years.
Riesling is also the German wine you find in all our export countries. It's a fantastic wine as a food matching wine. It's the most sophisticated white wine, and it's the most versatile white wine.
Outside Germany, consumers envision Riesling as a sweet wine. In reality, it can be made sparkling, off-dry, or lusciously sweet. But in fact, the majority of Riesling consumed in the domestic market is essentially dry. This diversity of style extends through the entire range of quality, from featherweight acidic Blanc to the world's greatest white wines.
We have very dry styled wines, we have half off-dry wines, and we have the sweet wines. And for each kind of taste, you can choose food.
German culture has never erred towards simplicity, and their wine labels are no exception. The grape variety is typically noted on the label, but beyond that, things get cryptic for the consumer. There are 13 defined quality wine regions that can be listed on the label. In addition, the village of origin and single vineyard, or Einzlage, are often designated. Unfortunately for consumers, the most misleading exception in all of wine law allows producers to use the name of a Grosslage, a large expanse of mediocre quality vineyards, in the same fashion as a single vineyard, with no easy way for consumers to discern the difference other than inferring it from the price. The fundamental tenet of German wine law is ripeness at harvest, as measured by the specific gravity of the unfermented juice. Being a highly marginal climate, the origin of this approach makes some sense. The top-tier quality wines display a stated Predikat from Cabinet to Trockenbeerenauslese, assuring a minimum ripeness of the must.
So sugar level in the grapes is given by weather and by nature. Sugar level in the wines is a decision made by the winemaker. Riesling sometimes is very thankful for having some residual sugar in the wine because the residual sugar, the sweetness in the wine, balances the fresh and crisp acidity of Riesling. But this is all about the winemaker's decision. And we try to label our wines and indicate this to our customers.
In addition to the label regulations defined by the country as a whole, many of Germany's premier estates are members of the VDP, a producer organization dedicated to quality wine.
The eagle on the bottle means that the VDP, that's a special group of top estates in Germany.
VDP, the Verband der Prädikatsweingüter. This is the Fine Wine Makers Association of Germany. It's a membership association of 200 winemakers all over the 13 wine growing areas of Germany. So you find good wines from vintners which are not in VDP, but to really select the crown of German wine growing and winemaking, that's VDP.
The VDP defines their own rules and labeling terms, with a hierarchy of quality that applies to both dry and sweet wines. Frustratingly, VDP terminology has been in a state of flux for years, but recently the organization has established a quality pyramid that would be easily interpreted by drinkers of Burgundy.
Es beginnt in der Basis mit den Gutsweinen, die sehr typisch sind für das Weingut, also deswegen Gutswein.
Second step is the Ortswein, where you get the growing dimension, get a bit more concrete. You have wines coming from a certain village, like Deidesheim, like Forst, like Rupertsberg. Third layer is the Erste Lage, which is describing very good vineyard sites, which show already a character on their own. It's not an ordinary field, it's a vineyard with a character.
Und die absolute Spitze, sind dann die großen Lagen, die Grand Cru praktisch in der VDP-Klassifikation. Es sind die Weine, die eigentlich wie die Leuchttürme jetzt dann das Image wieder der deutschen Weine.
VDP members are only allowed to use Prädikats, such as Auslese, on sweet wines. Their dry wines in the highest category are technically only Qualitätswein under German wine law. Each of Germany's 13 quality wine growing regions, or Anbaugebiete, have distinct growing conditions and geography. But to understand German wine, it makes sense to start with the Mosul, the Rheingau, and the Pfalz.
Mosul, most of the wines are fruity and with residual sugar. In Rheingau, it's kind of off-dry, and in Pfalz, it's mainly dry.
The valleys of the Mosel River and its tributaries comprise Germany's most picturesque and iconic wine region.
The Mosel is the most picturesque part of Germany because it's very steep slopes, and it's very hard work the winemakers do to cultivate these very steep vineyards.
We are here in the Middle Mosel, in the best part of our region, and that's the village of Brauneberg behind us. And we are standing here under the most famous Brauneberg Juffer Sonnenur. The Riesling, it needs a special soil, a special microclimate. And the soil is very important. A light soil, slates, blue slates, and the slates are warming up very fast over the day and keep the warmness over the night and spend it back to the wines.
Between the cities of Mainz and Wiesbaden, the north-flowing Rhine River takes a 30-kilometer westward turn. The south-facing vineyards along this stretch have been growing Riesling since the 1400s. Here in the Rheingau, the first appearance of Spätlese is credited to Schloss Johannesburg in 1775. Today, the Rheingau continues to make long-lived sweet wines, but top vineyards here are even more renowned for dry wines.
The Rheingau is the smallest of the three regions with a little bit more than 3,000 hectares, but it's the area with the highest percentage of Riesling growing.
And then we have a little bit of Pinot Blanc. And then we go into the red wine. We have some Spätburgunder Pinot Noir. And that's about it.
The Rheingau wines are very well known for their slightly salty and flinty minerality. Rheingau Riesling wines are always described as elegant, fresh, crisp, nice acidity, a good backbone of acidity, but also quite balanced because we have a lot of extract coming from the soil into our wines.
Just east of the French border, the Pfalz is a significant source for top-quality Riesling, with the largest planted acreage of the grape among the country's 13 Anbaugebieten.
Die Pfalz insgesamt, das ist ein Streifen entlang des Pfälzerwaldes, 80 Kilometer von Nord nach Süden und hat eine Ausdehnung ungefähr von 15 Kilometer, 10, 15 Kilometer vom Pfälzerwald zum Rhein hin.
It's a quite mild and warm climate. It's the second warmest area of Germany, which helps us to ripen the grapes and also to reduce a bit the acidity.
Like Alsace, its neighbor to the west, the soil and topography of the Pfalz can change dramatically from vineyard to vineyard. Millions of years of volcanic and tectonic activity combine with an ancient riverbed to form a diverse landscape of soil, capable of yielding excellent wines from a range of different grapes.
Compared with more northern regions like Rheingau or Mosul, wines from Pfalz have a much more fruit expression in the wines, so you get more of that peachy, apricot flavor of the Riesling grape than compared with other regions.
Hier im Süden der Pfalz eigentlich eine größere Rebsortenvielfalt findet, als das im Norden der Pfalz ist. Hier findet man, und das ist der Teil der gemeinsamen Weinbaugeschichte zum Teil mit dem Elsass, hier findet man auch die ganze Burgunderfamilie, also die Pinots, Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir. Man findet aber auch alte Rebsorten wie den Gewürztraminer, den Muscatella.
Riesling is indeed just the beginning of what Germany has to offer. German winemakers are optimistic as they look ahead, confident in the uniqueness of their country's terroir, climate, and grapes.
I think the future will be bright. Riesling cannot be grown in too many parts of the world because the Riesling always claims a special climate, cool climate, and a special soil.
Noch nie so viel gute Winzer, gute ausgebildete junge Winzer haben wie momentan. Insofern glaube ich, dass qualitativ das eher noch besser wird in Zukunft. Das ist eine Sache, aber
Germany's winemaking identity has evolved, from ancient origin to widespread notoriety to diminished fame in the 20th century. Today, however, as wine lovers enthusiastically rediscover German wines and realize that they aren't all sweet, the future looks promising.